to talk about temperature. Now, temperature here we have converted into a categorical feature, but you can consider it to be a continuous data also if you start providing 22.5, 30.2, and so on. So if you start providing an exact number for it, exact value for it, it will be considered as a continuous data. So I hope I'm clear with this part, what type of data we have, the types of data which we have in the data science. That's how we are categorizing it. Now let's go to the supervised learning. So when in your data, when you have a data, when you have features available, and for the features, you have a dependent variables also given. That for this kind of scenario, this should be an output. For this kind of scenario, this should be an output. And when you apply a model on top of it, so model will learn, model will try to find a pattern which can help you, which can help model to predict for this kind of scenario, this should be my output. And those pattern finding, that method is what we call it as supervised learning. That for the independent variable, it is giving a final prediction for it. Now, supervised learning is divided into two parts. One is classification. Another one is regression. So when you talk about classification, classification is when you're trying to classify something, when you're trying to classify a particular value in a particular category, that is what we refer to as classification. When you're trying to classify a particular scenario into a category, that is what we refer to as classification. Now, this is an example of a classification that for a particular kind of day, you're classifying it into yes or no. So you're classifying it into a yes or no. That is what we refer to as classification. Now, rather than that, if it is something like for a given data, which is having some continuous or categorical data mix, here you have some categories like A, B, A, B. Then you have some numbers like 23, 24, 25, 26, and you're predicting a value. You're predicting a value as 14, 16, 15.5, 16, and so on. When you're trying to find a continuous value, when you're trying to predict a continuous value, that is what we refer to as regression. That is what we refer to as regression methods or regression model. Are we clear? What is classification or regression? Can anyone tell me what is regression and classification models now? Now, when we talk about classification, we have different types of model, such as naive Bayes. We have KNN, which is called as a K nearest neighbor. Then we have SVM, which we call it as a support vector machine. Then we have logistic regression. And finally, we have is decision tree. Now, these are called as the most fundamental models which we have. These are what we call it as the most fundamental models, which is available in classification. We have more different models available, which relates to different kind of like random forest, ADA boost, 𝐓𝐫𝐨𝐻, and many more models, which we generally use. But they are further modification of these models only. They are only a modification of these models only. And that is why they are called as a fundamental model, and they are the base of every model. Okay. Now, these are different kind of models, and why do we need different kind of models? Now, different kind of models have their own different solution or business problems. Like if we take an example of naive Bayes, now naive Bayes is a probability-based theorem. Okay, it's a probability-based model where we are making a machine, learn from the data and find a pattern based on the probability theorem, based on the Bayes theorem. And due to the probability, it get a very good benefit, such as finding on a very less data, it can be trained, and it can be high. It is generally used in the case of medical, and the biology itself. Similarly, if you talk about cases where you are like Gmail, if you take an example of a Gmail, Gmail shows you an example that this email is a spam or a no spam. The naive Bayes is the one which is actually been initialized by the Gmail, by the Google itself, to find out whether the mail which they are sending is a spam mail or a no spam mail. So 𝐓𝐸𝐽 is one of those classic models which is used to work on a text data, to be worked in a medical sector. When you have a very less amount of data, that is also when you can use this 𝐓𝐸𝐽 model. Similarly, if you talk about KNN, now KNN is purely based on the algebra. It's based on algebra. The math stuff is behind this one is algebra. Now algebra, how it is using the algebra methods. Let's clear it up a little bit. Now here, if we talk about this one, it is probability based. If we talk about this one, it's calculus based. Now, when you talk about KNN, you're trying to find a distance between two data points. What you're trying to simply do is you're trying to find a distance between two data points. Now, KNN is also called as a lazy learner because it is in the training phase, it does not learn very well. It learns in the prediction phase. It tries to predict the values after matching the data points to each other. And that is where you use the KNN. So whenever there's a requirement that you need to make predictions for yourself or for the business purpose itself, that is when you use a KNN. So KNN are generally used when you have to create a recommendation kind of models, when you have to provide a product. So if you talk an example of Amazon, now Amazon initially used the KNN models in 2000s when they have to recommend the product that for your mobile you might need to buy a charger, or you might need to buy a cover, and so on. So this is one of the major use case example of where the KNN was actually implemented. Now similar to that, we have SVM. Now SVM is also based on calculus, where you are trying to find a hyperplane. We will be discussing about them in details also, but right now we are going with the overview. Now, when you talk about SVM, which we call it a support vector machine, so here what you're simply trying to do is that you're trying to find out a plane which can distinguish the data points. So here, as we said, that we're trying to classify a particular category into a yes or no, right? So they are in a space. When you plot these points, if you create a plane in between, if you create a line in between, which can separate those data points, which can separate the two category data points, that is what we refer to as SVM. So a plane which can divide two categories or three more categories, that is when you use the SVM. Now, the major advantage where we use this SVM model are, so suppose you're dealing with the image dataset. Now, image dataset is one of the major example where you work with the SVM model. Image datasets or text dataset, they are the most commonly used examples of SVM. Now, similar to that, we have logistic regression. Again, logistic regression is a log-based or sigmoid function model. Sigmoid function. So it is based on a sigmoid function. So again, we are using the use of maths over here to do the classification of particular category, classification into a particular category. Now, logistic regression is generally used whenever you have to make a binary classification, whenever you're trying to find a yes, no, true, false, uh, 0, 1, these kind of classification, whenever you're trying to do, that is when we go with the logistic regression. Then finally, we have the decision tree. Now, decision tree again is a very good model which uses the stats. It uses stats model. So it is using stats model to find or categorize or create a tree-like structure which can be easily identify to whether will buy a product or not. Okay, whether so like in the case of banking sector, decision tree is one of the major one which generally used. In the case of banking sector, we very highly use this decision tree models. And similarly, in those kind of examples, you use these decision tree models. Now, talking about the regression, now this is what we have as a classification, like fundamental models of classification. Now, similarly, we have regression models. Also we have multiple models, starting with linear regression. L1, L2 regularizer, and polynomial regression. Again, all of them are using the calculus itself. All of them are using the calculus, as they are trying to predict, they are trying to categorize your values into a particular case. They're trying to classify something, they have to give a proper value itself. Rather than classifying it, it is trying to predict. And they all are using, mostly this is what we are using is y equal to mx plus c, which is a line equation. So they all are using the calculus only. And use cases of these models are, so whenever you have to predict some value, suppose house price prediction, which is a very common example of, so you are trying to predict the price of house based on the locality, based on the nearby. So based on these trying is the price of house. That is what you refer to regression. Clearly, the good example for regression models are stock market. Also, you use highly because price of a particular stock is price for the stock. Okay, so that is where you use this kind of models as regression models. So this is what we have as a supervised learning, where we are trying to predict values, and that is why they are called as a predictive models. That is why they are called as a predictive models. They are called as the predictive models. Now, moving further, we have the unsupervised models. Again, there you have clustering. So as we discussed already, that when you do not have any predefined labels available, when you do not have any target label available, these kind of target label available, this is not available right now. Now, when you're having this much data only, and when you're trying to find, when your model is trying to find the similarity between data points, that is when we refer to as unsupervised learning models. When you're trying to relate these data points, that this data point will be related to this one, or this data point will be related to any other one, when you're just connecting them, when you're connecting them with each other based on some kind of similarity, based on some kind of scenarios, that is what we refer to as unsupervised learning model. So it is also divided into two parts: clustering and association. Now, clustering is when you're grouping your data into a particular points, when you're trying to group data into multiple groups based on the similarity between data points. So a single group will have similar kind of features, other group will have different kind of features. That is what we refer to as clustering. Now, this also we have different models such as k-means, DB-scan, and agglomerative. Similarly, when you talk about association, now association is also when you're trying to associate product with each other. So suppose if you go to some stores and there you see that they are associating a product, like, okay, this is something, a task you can consider. Now let me just give you a model which is FP growth. Now there is a very famous theory which is given by Walmart. Let's consider this Walmart theory. And I would highly recommend to go for this article, which is called as a beer typo theory. Do go out for this particular theory, which is beer diaper theory. A beer diaper theory is it's a study done by the Walmart, and by using the association techniques. Now, with this, what they came up is that if you use the beer, like if you're putting your beer cans along with the diaper section in your stores, you will get sales for both the products. And that is what the association is about. When you're trying to relate the products with each other to have a better sales, better revenues in the stores, that is when you are using the association techniques. And this is one of the actual theory, and this is actual example which you can also study on the internet. And I will highly recommend to go for this beer diaper theory by Walmart. Now, this is the actual study done by the Walmart using association techniques to increase their sales. So that is what we refer to as association. Now, similar to that, we have reinforcement learning, which is when you're learning from the past experiences. Now, reinforcement learning it can be two types. One is interaction based. So as you are living your life, whatever kind of interactions you're coming up, whatever kind of experiences you're coming up, you're just improvising yourself. You're improving yourself. You're making changes in yourself. That is what we refer to as interaction based learning. Another one is goal based learning. So if you take an example of games, the ultimate motive of game is I have to win, right? Ultimate game of goal of the game is that I have to win, and that is what we refer to as goal based learning. So that when your model is learning throughout the process, and ultimately its motive is to win the game, and that is why these kind of models are called as a reward and penalty based. So the models are learning based on rewards and penalties. So for each kind of case, your model is getting a reward or penalty. So if it do something good, it gets a reward. If it does something bad, it gets a penalty. Okay? And that is how it is learning. That is how it is improving itself. And that is how it will come to final goal that I have to win it. I have to win that particular game. So that is about the reinforcement learning. And that is all about the basic overview of what is data science is all about, how data science is evolving around. So let me rephrase or explain you about the course which you are going to deliver. So at Learnomate Technologies, we'll be delivering the course which is about the data science. Now the data science which we have learned just now, the overall picture which we have learned, now that will be done, that will be implemented by learning two aspects. One is Python. The one aspect of data science is Python, and another one is maths. Now, these are the major pillars which we have into the field of data science. And in our course also, we'll be starting with the basics of data science itself, jumping into the Python part, that how Python has been utilized, how you're using the Python to implement your algorithms, which you have just now discussed, how to process the data, because Python is used to work with the data itself, like how you're going to deal with the data, how to make it useful for the models, how you can learn from the data, or how you can understand it. That's when you use the Python. Then we'll be jumping into the mathematical part. The mathematical is as important as Python itself, because while creating those models, you need to understand how they have been implemented. And that is why we say that in the data science, when you're learning into the AI part, when you're jumping into the AI part, maths is very important. And we'll be learning the maths in a very interactive way so that it will not feel like boring. I know that many people do feel maths as a boring subject, but you will be seeing the maths which you're learning in your 8th, 9th, 12th, in all the classes or college, how it has been actually implemented in real-time industries, in real-time world also. So we'll try to go with that perspective. We'll be learning about maths. Okay, that's when we'll be learning about maths as linear algebra, calculus, probability, stats, all these things. Then finally learning about the data processing part to finally process our data after learning everything. Then finally we'll be understanding the data, how you can use the math to understand the data, and based on that, how you can create your models. That's when we'll be learning into the modeling part, that supervised learning models, unsupervised learning models, and the reinforcement learning model. Okay, so we'll be implementing all the models, and then after creating the model, it's not ending over there. When you work on a project of a data science, after creating the model, the actual work starts as to see how well your model is working, how well it has been trained, and how well it can give final predictions or values. That is when we perform the valuation or the validation. And then finally, we'll be discussing about all the further technologies you can go for, like the advancements in the data science. And then finally, we'll be talking about the real-time projects, the kind of projects which we are going to work on. That is what we're going to, so these are the projects which we're going to work. So first is Airbnb data, where we'll be learning of how to, how the Airbnb data, how you can explore the Airbnb data, how you can understand it, how you can use math to make a exploration of it. That is what we refer to as data analysis. Then we'll be doing multiple projects related to, first one is related to supervised learning, the unsupervised learning, and finally to the deep learning models. So that is what we're gonna do in this particular course. And if you want to know more about Learnomate, you can just, and it's a 4 month duration, online only. And if you have any doubts, you can connect the support, which is also available in chat. So for any kind of doubts or any questions related to the course part, related to any kind of things, you can ask to the contacts. These are the contacts available. And further, to see how do we teach, as I've already given a demo, and tomorrow also we'll be having a demo. But if you know more about Learnomate, you can just follow us on these channels, on these social media channels. You'll get better understanding of how we are, how trustworthy we are. So just go through them. Just open up the YouTube channel to check it out how it is. And if you have any, let us know. The channel is all about. You can just watch it out how we are dealing. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
You can unmute yourself and you can ask your questions.
Can we cover in deep learning portion like ANN, CNN, RNN?
That we will be covering as of just overview part, because that's based on machine learning. Like this course is for machine learning part. For the deep learning, we'll be guiding you like how you can proceed with deep learning and giving you a very short brief also what is deep learning is all about.
Okay.
So we will be helping you with that part.
For
Yes, anyone else?
so for NLP, what software will you be using? Like which companies like products will you be showcasing or helping us understand?
Will be like NLP is all about working on processing the text data. Company data, it's dependent on what kind of project we'll be working on. That we can see at the time of implementation of NLP part. But NLP is like we'll be learning about how to process your text data, how to process your textual data. That's one we'll be looking at. That's what we'll be looking at.
NLP is completely different, so we can cover NLP also.
Basics will be covered out, like as I mentioned. Through if you go through, you'll see and someone else
Okay.
will be helping kind of tasks. If you start talking about deep data science, for this, like 4 months is also very less time. People are doing the 4 year degrees also for this data science. But we will be helping you, like, because these are more of a specializations. These are all a specialization. So whichever specialization you want to do further, we'll be definitely helping you with that how you can proceed with that. And we'll be giving you a brief overview of how it is looking like. So that you can, after completing the basics of the data science, that is when you can enter to any of these fields. First, you need to go with, like, it is very much like to go to college, you'll first complete your schooling. And this data science course is like a schooling where you'll be learning about the holistic picture, where you'll be performing the betterment, and then you can choose which particular domain you want to choose. And you know that people after 10th also doing entrepreneur, doing jobs also. So similar to that, when you get a skill of a data science, it's not just about the jobs. You can create your own companies. I can give you many examples where people who have just learned the data science, they are open up their own companies where they're selling their data science products. So data science is not the skill which we are going to teach in this particular course. It's not just about working to go for the job only. You can obviously master your skills, you can better your skills, and you can definitely apply it to the jobs after just completing this course also. After just completing the course, you can go for the jobs, or you'll be grabbing a skill from which you can create your own companies also. So, and further, if you want to explore more into this data science field, these are the domains which you have. You can explore them further and make your specialization in a particular field so that you can go for that particular branch or particular kind of jobs also. Any other questions?
Hello, sir. It's me, Satyajal Naik.
Yes.
सर शैल वी गेट इट ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन? सर ये हिंदी में बोल सकता हूँ क्या मैं सर में?
हाँ जी, हिंदी में बोलिए।
सर इसके रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर मिलेंगे क्या हमें, या फिर
बिल्कुल
लाइव ही
मिलेंगे।
है?
लेक्चर्स
मतलब
भी
जो आज
मिलेंगे,
जो
लाइव
लाइव
क्लासेस भी
हुआ
रहेंगे।
है सर, वो
आज
हमें।
रिकॉर्डिंग हुआ है, बट आई गेस हर्ष, प्लीज हेल्प मी अस इन दिस वन. Will the student get
So
this recording?
actually, we have a Learnomate technology app. So in that app, we provide recordings of the training. After the class, we will provide the recording also. And the classes timing will be morning 7 to 8 a.m. The classes will be live class. And if you miss any class now, we provide you recording of that session.
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर.
Okay, most welcome. Okay, anyone else have any doubts?
Sir, will we be covering anything about cloud computing when we are talking about machine learning?
So machine learning does not have any relation with the cloud computing. That is what we can refer to as uh, it is like cloud computing is simply like you having a data, you are having all the computing related to softwares onto the cloud. Rather than having them in your laptop, you have in your machine as a physical machine, you're making them as a online cloud itself. Everything is in the cloud only. So that is what you have as a cloud computing, simply if you talk about. And they're generally used by the DevOps or the data engineers, like majorly by the DevOps. So there's no relation of that part with the machine learning or data science. That's
Sir,
why
but
we'll
there
not
are
be requiring that skill. And
okay,
yes,
okay, sir, but there are when you in lot of like these machine learning kind of jobs, they're asking if you are proficient with cloud computing, because the machine learning and AI based models are being used for making cloud more and more intelligent. That
yes,
is the
one thing which we're gonna do, yeah, definitely one thing we will be doing is like
okay.
that what you have said is correct, and that is what we refer to as MLOps nowadays. So that
Mhm.
is what we say is because obviously when you're creating your model, you need to implement it. Suppose you're working for a data science project for a website. So obviously you need to
Sir,
implement your project onto the website, right?
yeah,
You need to
sir,
implement or
I just want
deploy
to
your
know.
project into
I just
that
want
part.
to know.
Yes.
I just wanted to know this much, that these kind of business specific business cases and all. If we have these kind of questions or implementation related, use cases, can you help us with that? While we are in the project in the course.
Yeah, that is what I was just now saying, that you
Okay.
will be learning that there's a one skill which you need as a data science, that you need to learn how, when you created your model, how to implement it into a particular website, or how it will be implemented into a website. Okay, that part you will be learning, and that is also related to that is what like job profile. If you see, that's called as an MLOps. Okay, so that is where you will be requiring this skill, that how to implement your models into the cloud. So that thing we will be learning. We'll try to learn that part when we will be working on the projects.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Most welcome. Okay, anyone else? Any other question? If someone have,
Hello.
yes.
Yeah, sir. May I know data science is the combination of AI, machine learning, robotics, and also Python?
So like data science is a study of AI and
Okay.
robotics, NLP, machine learning. All these are part of AI. AI
Okay.
is a very vast field, and in this particular course, we'll be dealing with a branch of AI which we call it as a machine learning.
Okay.
And Python
Means
is obviously like it's a common tool. It's a tool, not a part of AI. It's a tool which we use to implement the AI. Now you can use it
okay.
from Java also, you can use it from C also, but we will be using the Python to implement all that AI which we are gonna.
Okay. Means what is the exactly working of data science? Where we use?
So as I give you few examples that like as you must be using Gmail, right? And in Gmail they
Yes.
do give you suggestions that it's a spam mail, it's a no spam mail. If you talk about
Okay.
Truecaller, like people they are suggesting that it's a spam call, it's a no spam call, right? Similarly, if you
Okay.
talk about examples as like now, if you go to Amazon, okay, Amazon will
Yes.
start suggesting you products. Like, okay, buy this
Yeah.
product. If you're buying this product, buy this particular product. Okay, everywhere in each and every domain, if you talk about healthcare sector, like if you talk about the analysis of that coronavirus, right? Now
Yes.
that was done using the AI also. It is not done by humans. Like obviously, major part is done by humans, but many part which is just to be done repeatedly. That is where they have actually implemented the AI to find out the drugs, like which is the final combination of drugs which can actually affect this coronavirus. After getting a
Okay.
sample of coronavirus, they have started simulating the results using the AI. So AI
Yes.
has been nowadays used by each and every branch, each and every industry
Yes.
in the nowadays, like starting with the mechanical, electrical, civil, everywhere. There's no
Yes.
such stream. There's no business who are not using AI in nowadays. And that's why
Okay.
data science, we need to learn about data science to get updated with those kind of skills.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Okay, then we will connect tomorrow on same time. So those who are interested to join, they can reach out to Learnomate team on this number 77 number and 78 number. Okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Sahil sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.